Guys, hello, hello, hello. I hope you're all well. So many people. I've never seen so many people in the waiting room as this before we went live. Like YouTube has a little how many people are waiting and just mad. Welcome all. I hope you're all good. So good to see so many so super keen. So good to see so many regulars, but also some new names as well. Robert, welcome in. I'm not sure I've seen you before. Moon, welcome in. Saduki, Punky, all you regulars. I don't know how you still tolerate me. This isn't even our regular night. We normally do this on a Sunday night, and yet here you are on a Monday. I hope you're all well, guys. Oh, no audio? Who's saying no audio? Who's saying no audio? Who would scare me like that? Great. So my own moderator, when they know full well I spent the weekend changing all of my gear, it said no more audio and scared the hell out of me. Turn the volume up, Nia. Why would she do that to me? I'm literally, for the regulars here, we'll notice that everything's different behind me. We've got a new mic. I've got a new mixer. I've even got new cables. There was so much that could have gone wrong, and Nia knew this. And then my mod is the one, for anyone that's new here, by the way, Nia's also my wife. So she does a lot of hard work tolerating this. She's currently putting Dylan to bed whilst moderating. Yeah, there's always the chance for human error. Thank you for waking me up, Nia. I am now well and truly got adrenaline flowing, so thank you for that. Appreciate it. Definitely mod behavior. I know you can't trust them. You should see them over on Twitch. They're a nightmare. But yeah, lots of changes this week, guys. Lots of changes. So I'm I'm nervous for two reasons. One, because we've had a bit of a break. Family was unwell, so sorry for anyone that turned up last Sunday when this was supposed to happen. Thank you to everyone that accommodated the change of schedule, including our guest tonight. Really appreciate that. There's a horrendous sickness bug going around the UK at the minute, and yeah, we were well. I couldn't have text you, let alone been on live stream. So thank you for everyone that has accommodated that. And then yeah, I'm also nervous because I've got a fellow content creator. I guess not everyone uses that term. I use that term because I refuse to use words like influencer and stuff like that. So we'll go with content creator. So I'm really nervous because they know what I'm doing and they can see me when I'm behind the scenes panicking and the little tells that we have when not everything's going to plan. So yeah, welcome everyone, guys. And as you may have got either from our socials or from the description, tonight's a really special one because not only is Heather joining us to talk about what we'd always talk about here on the Chronic Pain Club, which is about people's lived experiences to try and raise awareness, reduce stigma, educate, etc. But we will also be joining back up later on in the week on Twitch, where I will be well and truly out of my comfort zone on that occasion, to basically practice what we preach with some of the stuff we're talking about tonight with using gaming as a form of coping with our long-term health conditions. Welcome in, Amy. I hope you're good. M6, welcome in. I think I've probably missed some people in chat, but if you've been here for a while, you'll know why, because Nia decided to try and terrify me by saying I had no audio. So if I've missed anyone in chat, Effie, welcome in, Effie. I hope you're good. I think I've caught everyone. Snuffle, welcome in, mate. I hope you're good. Snuffle, we need to onboard you onto YouTube moderation over from Twitch because clearly Mama Mod stroke Nia Cheeks can't be trusted on their own. Welcome in, Lauren. Lauren, you were super keen. Lauren and Selby were in chat before we even went live, which is mad. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm an official YouTuber now because my mic now points the other way. I decided, like self-certified YouTuber, because my mic is now upside down to how it was before. So we're not amateur hour anymore. We're just like, you know, fake it till we make it kind of thing. So it's not even a different mic. It's not even a different mic. Just turned it up the other way around to make it look cooler. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in, Sai. Thank you. If you missed an earlier shout out for the channel members, Sai and Saduki, guys, thank you so much for supporting what we do over here, especially when you support us so much over on Twitch. I don't expect everyone to follow us around the internet. So for the guys that that support us over on YouTube as channel members, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I had lots of admin stuff to tell you, and that's now all completely gone from my head. Thanks, Nia. So we're here tonight. I know it's different. We're normally on a Sunday night. So if you subscribe to the channel, guys, you'll get that notification when we go live. Anyone that got a notification on Friday from Twitch, I may or may not have been doing a filming project for an American organization, I might have hit start streaming on OBS rather than my record button, so that anyone that got a sneaky 20 seconds of me reading a script, you can just class that as Patreon content or OnlyFans or something, because that shouldn't have happened. But that's the first time in 4 years or 3 years that I've accidentally done that. So so anyone who saw that 20 seconds of gibberish, more on that soon. There's a video coming out, a documentary coming out in March that I was recording a clip for. Rather embarrassingly, I was recording Twitch lines as well, where I had to pretend I was streaming. So it would have been very surreal for anyone that saw that. And I literally, when you have that moment where you think you've accidentally like sent the email to the wrong person or whatever it is, that your stomach just drops like through the floor. I died. I think I lost about a year off my life when I realized I was live on Twitch for 20 seconds. But there we go. It could have been a lot worse. I could have been rehearsing it in my pajamas or something. So, it could have been worse. But I hope you're well, guys. Has anyone... So I should say we've got lots of new people here. So first of all, welcome, guys. Make them feel welcome in chat. I know you always do. Thank you, Saduki, for noticing. Yeah, the new camera angle and everything. We can now actually see what I'm wearing rather than just an egg on screen. So if you're new, guys, welcome in. So here on the Chronic Pain Club is basically, we do this over here away from Twitch, because we found Twitch just gets very confused when you're trying to have serious conversations. So on Twitch, we do know the gaming. We use that as a form of escapism. We don't talk too much about what we're dealing with because we just kind of want to just forget about it. But if anyone comes in needing peer support, then of course we offer it and signposts and everything else. So we wanted to have somewhere where we could have more serious conversations. So we do this talk show normally on a Sunday night, and everything you get that gets recorded here tonight with our guest ends up on the Joel Nelson podcast as well. And if I was any sort of like non-amateur, then I wouldn't be stalling for time, and I'd click this button and then you'd see that, oh yeah, that's the podcast he's talking about. So that's where this all ends up. If you like listening to podcasts, go check them out. And normally a couple of months behind what you see here live on YouTube. And essentially we're a peer support community first and foremost, so please do carry on the conversation in chat, guys. It won't be disrespectful to our guests. We take the chat off screen, so if you're watching on YouTube, please carry on the conversation on YouTube. If you're watching on the Facebook page, you can do the same there, but you won't see the cross chat once the interview starts. So please do keep that conversation going, because we are a peer support community first and foremost. It's what we exist for. Near Cheeks or Snuffle or someone will put a link to our Discord in chat. I still haven't worked out how to do an interactive Discord link yet, but I will do one day. It's a very different system that we use here compared to Twitch. So yeah, that's what we exist for. So even though we're having these conversations, we're trying to create platforms where people can share their lived experience, raise awareness. There's only so many times I can tell my story. I'm already bored of hearing me speak, so goodness knows everyone else is. And then so basically, the chat will come off screen, but you can carry on talking, support each other, ask questions. We've got an awesome group of regulars here that are ready to sort of field those questions. And also, if you have any comments about the interview, then we'll feature the best ones on screen throughout the interview. We won't always be able to sort of acknowledge them. Sometimes they will sort of get line my sort of question a little bit, so please do. Thank you, Near Cheeks, for the Discord link. But yeah, please do get involved in chat, guys. And for anyone that understands how these things work, Google just likes that stuff. It means more people see it, more people are likely to be shown it after we go off air as well. And I should point out, the minute we go offline, guys, the whole thing, warts and all, start to finish, goes up on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So if you missed the start or anything, or if you can't stick around and you miss the end, then you can catch it straight after this show. And then in a couple of weeks' time, I'll edit it down just to the interview. So I think that's probably enough waffle for me. Welcome in, Punky, by the way. I missed Punky. If I missed anyone else, guys, I'm sorry. I'm flapping tonight. There's been too much change. All my buttons are in the wrong place. My camera's in a different place. My muscle memory's all out the window. So thank you for everyone who's tolerated this flappy introduction. So I will remove the chat now, and I will get rid of the music, because we all know I forget to kill the music. So let's be our guest, guys. So I had a script prepared for this, and I'm not going to do it. I don't script a lot of this, but I normally write the intro. But I think for this one, I think it's important to add some context. So tonight's guest is somebody called Heather Christie, also known as ArchaeoPlays over on Twitch and YouTube and other places. But the story behind Heather being with us tonight is that I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, a Minecraft podcast, and I hear that there's this person from the UK or living in the UK talking about what they do in Minecraft, and then I find that they've got these lots of chronic illnesses, and they're basically doing similar sort of thing on Twitch to me. It just felt like a no-brainer. So very informal introduction, Heather, but thank you so much for joining me, and also for agreeing to be with us here on Monday.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. And also hello chat. Hello everybody who's watching. I'm seeing some familiar names in chat, so it's good to see everybody.
Yeah, you've clearly got a lot of supporters, and I should say anyone listen to this on the podcast back, we are both Twitch streamers, so we will accidentally refer to chat several times.
Yeah, we will do our best to ignore chat, but no promises.
Yeah, that's it. That is just the nature of the beast. So, yeah. Heather, thank you so much for joining us, and for joining us on this sort of slightly rearranged date due to my health condition and everything. So, for anyone that's not aware, just maybe like in a short couple of lines, do you want to tell us who you are, where you're from, and yeah, what you do over on Twitch?
Sure. Yeah. So I am my name's Heather, otherwise known as ArchaeoPlays. I am an archaeologist. I have a PhD in archaeology. Well, yeah, I have multiple degrees, one PhD, a couple of masters in archaeology. So I've been doing archaeology for a while. And I use YouTube and Twitch, basically Minecraft, to teach people about archaeology, to make the past a little bit more accessible to people, and to try and kind of communicate using the medium of Minecraft, which is something that we often forget is potentially like an actual medium that you can that you can communicate with. So that's what I do in YouTube, but also on Twitch. I do also have a little bit more variety to what I do. I sometimes do co-working streams, or I've started doing co-working streams on Tuesdays. I won't be doing one tomorrow because we're doing this stream tonight. So I'm going to take tomorrow off. But I do that. And then on Wednesdays, I play Stardew Valley with a Minecraft friend of mine who has never played Stardew Valley before. And I've played like way too much of it. So that's a fun time as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and it's just as somebody that as a kid wanted to be an archaeologist, it's like when I was listening to you on the podcast, it was just, well, maybe we should probably name it. What was the name of the podcast?
It's the Spawn Chunks. Yeah, with Pixel Riffs and Joel Duggan. It's a very well-known Minecraft podcast. And I've actually, this was my second appearance on it. I was actually on the podcast in September of 2022 because I had asked Pixel Riffs to collaborate on something earlier, and he said yes, and then they invited me on the podcast, and then we talked about the archaeology update in Minecraft if it were ever to come to fruition, because this was September and we didn't know that it was coming to Minecraft, and then they announced that it was in like February of last year, so roughly a year ago. And then I was just on over the holidays, basically, to talk about how the archaeology update looks and what I think about it as an archaeologist. Because the last time we talked about it, we didn't even know it was coming to Minecraft anytime soon. So and now it's here, and it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, it's absolute joy listening to that, because I listened to that podcast religiously for one reason. That's because I'm so terrible. I've got so many knowledge gaps in Minecraft. So for anyone that's new here or listening to this for the first time and don't understand what we do over on Twitch, like, we try to create a low bar on purpose. You know, we want people that maybe had bad experiences with like WoW raiding and stuff like that, where because their disability or long-term health condition means that it's just not compatible and they see the bad side of the internet, we try to create this like low bar that anyone feels welcome, then come and play it. And I feel like if I play games I'm good at or I know really well, and I play lots of like strategy games in my spare time, then that's probably not going to make people feel welcome. So we intentionally play these games.
You're intentionally playing games you're not as good at.
So constantly, lots of people see in chat tonight like scream at me through stream, like in a good, encouraging way, because, you know, I still don't know how to get to the end, and I still don't really know what I'm doing in the Nether, and I still all these things. But I hope by doing that just kind of makes it a bit more relaxing, and that people will feel a bit more likely to want to join in, you know.
Yeah. Well, and in your defense, Minecraft keeps changing, so so even if you had a handle on it, it's like, oh, now there's another major update, oh wait, now another one. They do one every year, so you know, it's a very different game to what it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Which is exciting for people who've been playing it for a while, but certainly as a new player, I can imagine it gets a little bit daunting to have to keep up with.
Yeah, but you explained it perfect, and you speak so well as well. But you explained it perfectly when I listened to that. So thank you. That really did help give me a bit of an
Oh,
insight
good.
into the changes. I feel like we probably should pause there on the game and stuff, and,
Sure.
and get
Yeah.
sort of a
Yeah.
bit of
Yeah.
background, and then we'll come back to what it is that we do and why, etc. So for anyone that's sort of like isn't aware of what you do and the work you're doing and that, I understand you live with multiple long-term health conditions. I think it's fair to
Yeah,
say, isn't
I
it?
have 7.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely
There was a
multiple.
point when I was being diagnosed where I kept saying that I was trying to desperately to convince my body that chronic illnesses aren't Pokemon and we really don't need to catch them all, and I was failing spectacularly. So yeah, so I have 7. Thankfully, I haven't been diagnosed with more than 7 at this point, but, life's long, maybe.
Well, clearly you got a great
Who
one. Look at
knows?
that. And unfortunately, because I know you've definitely got at least one like autoimmune in there, and somebody that's from that autoimmune background. Unfortunately, they are a bit like buses, aren't they? We very rarely get one on in isolation. So
Yep,
how did that? I know this is a big question. Bearing in mind you just said you got 7 there, but like,
7, yeah, it's
was
a
it just
saga.
like a domino thing? Was it a gradual thing, or was it just what all in one? Like,
It so weirdly, well, not weirdly, probably predictably to anybody who has chronic illnesses, I wasn't diagnosed with any of them until January of 2020. So perfect time to be getting diagnosed with
yeah,
with
right.
chronic illnesses. I was diagnosed in January of 2020, but the effects of several that I wasn't even diagnosed with until a year and a half later, I'd been feeling since I was a teenager. So for a couple of decades at this point. The Basically what had started happening was I started getting really severe pain, like really bad pelvic pain. Which is bad if you have female anatomy. Just FY, I mean, it's bad in general, but especially if you have female anatomy, pelvic pain is not normal. You should talk to someone about it. Just general PSA. So I started having such severe pain that it would like I thought that I needed an ambulance or needed to go to the hospital. And it turned out that nothing was actually wrong. It was just an incredible amount of pain. Well, nothing was visibly wrong, I should say. Things were wrong. They just couldn't see what. And so there was a period of about a year, a little less, probably like 9 months. So in like May of 2019, I ended up at the hospital. And they didn't see anything, so they said, "Speak to your GP." So I spoke to my GP, and thankfully, I basically just said, so for people who aren't in the UK, when you go talk to a GP, you do often have like your specific GP, but if it's something that's urgent, you'll go to whoever's available in the practice on the day. And thankfully, the person that I was allocated to was a guy who had spent most of his career in gynecology, but he had sort of eased back into family medicine for like the last maybe decade of his career. So he was looking at things, and we did a whole bunch of tests, and everything came back looking perfectly normal. But obviously, there were problems. So I asked him, just said, "Is there anything?" Even if it's complete, like, I don't need you to tell me why you think this. You don't even need to have a reason. Is there anything that you're thinking maybe it's this, just in the back of your mind? And he said, "Well, I have no reason, absolutely 0 reason to say that it's this, aside from the fact that we can't rule it out. I think you might have endometriosis." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's a name. I can figure out what this is." And then about 6 months later, well, 4 months later, I can count, 3 or 4 months. August. I can count. I'm a functional person.
Trust me,
Um,
my if I was asked to give my full diagnosis story now, it'd just blur into one. So
yeah,
don't worry,
yeah. I
you won't
will I
fact
will
check it.
try to keep it short because it is a long one. But yeah, so in August, before I became as disabled as I am, I did a lot of museum education or outdoor museum education especially.
Mm.
So I did historical tours around the University of Glasgow because it was, well, it's the 3rd oldest university in the 4th oldest university in the English speaking world. there's a lot of Cambridge and Oxford like to fight, so we let them fight.
Really?
Basically.
As somebody went to university in
Yeah, that's
Cambridge, yeah,
yeah.
I'm well aware of that.
I feel like that generally sums up, yeah, the situation. So I was giving an outdoor tour, and I finished the tour, went to go hand in the keys, and had, like, the worst pain I've ever had in my life, at that time. I've now had worse pain, because chronic pain, and it's fun. But it was really bad, and I was walking back to my building where my office is, and the office that I was in is kind of like you have to wind around the building and then go through one door that has like a key code lock on it, and then our office also has a lock on it. So I was walking back and realizing that I didn't know if, like, I had messaged my husband who also worked at the university. I didn't know if he was going to be able to find me before I had like passed out. And if that was like had to do the mental gymnastics of should I go to my office or should I sit here outside the building? Because if I sit outside the building and I pass out, then somebody's going to notice. Whereas if I'm in my office behind a keypad that he doesn't know the key to the code for, that's a problem. So yeah, so basically it was bad enough that we went to the hospital, spent the night in the hospital, and independently at like 6 a.m. The some of the residents came in and said, "Yeah, we're thinking it might be endometriosis." And I was like, "Well, my GP independently thinks that, so so it might be endometriosis." So after that, tried desperately to hold on to a job teaching, but I it wasn't possible, and you can probably imagine with 7 chronic illnesses, it's just not physically possible. So in January, December to January of that year, so 2019 to 2020, they did an MRI. And this is something a lot of people don't necessarily know about endometriosis. There's a little bit of a misconception that it can only be diagnosed via surgery. That's incorrect. It can only be ruled out with surgery. But you can be diagnosed. If it's bad enough, you can be diagnosed with an MRI. And I was. So they did the MRI and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, it's everywhere." So no wonder you're in pain. And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Okay, vindication, validation,
I was
helpful.
going to
Thank
say, how
you."
did that make you feel? Like, because sometimes, like, I've been through that where you feel like a fraud, or maybe I don't
Yeah,
know, you can even get to dark places where you start thinking you're like too weak, and maybe that's why you're
yeah,
feeling so much pain. And yes, how did
yeah.
that feel?
It was very nice to have it confirmed. And I think especially echoing that for particularly for things like women's health, where it hasn't gotten as much attention. And there is this sense of, oh, well, you're in pain every month. Everybody's in pain every month. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like there are different levels of pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very much if you're in so much pain that ibuprofen doesn't cover it, then you should talk to someone. You should really talk to someone. But yeah, so thankfully that GP spotted it early. But like they diagnosed me, they're like, "Yeah, you have stage 4 endometriosis," which doesn't mean, so the stages in endometriosis correspond to the degree of symptoms that you're experiencing, not
Okay.
necessarily, better phrasing, they don't correlate to the effect it's having on your day. So stages, there's like the extent of endometriosis in your system. You can have lots of endometriosis tissue, and it might be perfectly fine. It might not affect you, or you can have very little of it and it affects you incredibly greatly. I had a lot and it was affecting me greatly. So so that was fun. Um, for those who don't necessarily know what endometriosis is, I'm realizing I should probably describe what it is before getting into other diagnoses. Endometriosis is a condition where tissue that is similar to the tissue that grows in the lining of the uterus grows outside of the uterus. It grows anywhere else in the body that it darn well pleases. And the problem there is that it tends to behave like tissue that is inside the uterus. So you can imagine every month it tries to do a certain thing that is very painful. Additionally, it likes to stick to things. So apologies for the graphic description, but it
There you go
effectively
for it.
glues your organs together in very painful ways because your organs aren't supposed to be glued together, and they try to move in a way that that doesn't account for being glued together, and so there's a lot of pain. It's a very painful condition. So I
Can I
had that
just say, first of all, you're
Mhm.
doing my job for me. Like, can you come on every week? Like, the fact that my next question was, could you maybe tell us a little bit about what I
Yeah.
do, what
I
it
was
is,
about
and
to move on. I was like,
and you've just, yeah, no,
before,
you're brilliant. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to get
yeah,
comfortable, and
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
just go.
So I was diagnosed with that in January of 2020, and I was referred for urgent surgery in January of 2020. And obviously, 2020 didn't mean that this urgent surgery happened urgently, because 2020 was 2020. So I didn't get surgery for 16 months. So I was sitting for 16 months with my organs glued together, and
And
it was
are you in the UK at this point?
yes, yeah,
Yes, I was going to say welcome to the UK, but I thought I
yeah,
might just, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Especially with
Yes.
that level of pain, because I've been there where that you know you're going to pass out or be sick, or like my wife knows if I'm vomiting, then my pain is like the highest. So that level of pain, until you've experienced it, is just
Oh,
something
yeah.
else, isn't it? So
The amount of pain where you can't form words anymore and you don't understand words anymore, that's something else. It's
yeah,
something else.
yeah, yeah.
So they referred me for urgent surgery. Obviously, COVID happened, and so urgent surgery didn't happen. And also in the UK, when you're referred for urgent surgery, depending on the condition, it can take a while to get urgent surgery anyway.
Hmm.
So basically May of 2021, they were finally able to actually operate, and I think I may have even like, they may have jumped me in the queue a little bit, because by, like, the spring of 2021, it was affecting all of my other systems. So I was not a functional human, and I had been on really heavy painkillers for a year and a half, and, like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
bad. So
I
I
had
think
no
there was a
idea it
point
could.
where other
I'm sorry to
specialists
interrupt.
Yeah,
I just
no.
had no idea it was that far reaching. Like my own sister has it, and I see the horrific pain, and and I
Mhm.
hear about the fallout and the issues it causes. But I had no idea it could be that
Yeah.
far wide reaching.
Yeah, so for fun information for everybody, you can have endometriosis in your nose, or your throat. It can be in your spine. It can be anywhere. It'll go anywhere. And removing the requisite organs, or well, the responsible organs, doesn't do anything. So it's just gonna happen
Yeah.
regardless. So the goal with endometriosis generally is to mitigate it through non-surgical means if you can, and then use surgery if needed, and try to maximize the amount of time between surgeries. But generally speaking, if you have endometriosis, you're probably going to need multiple surgeries every like 3 to 5 years for the rest of for most of the rest of your life,
Wow.
basically. So,
And
which is why
what
they try to
does
prolong the time between it, because every surgery is a risk. So obviously,
yeah.
having one every 3 years is a big difference to having one every 5 years. So yeah.
Yeah, that's just I'm seeing it in a totally different light. And so obviously surgery you've talked there is a big option, and so it's like sort of almost a regular thing. Is there any sort of treatment like prevention that helps with it?
So there yes and no,
Okay.
depending on the person. The one of the difficulties with endometriosis is that it's so poorly understood. Even though it's probably one of the better understood chronic illnesses in gynecology, it's still not very well understood. And part of that is because different people react differently to different types of treatments. So for some people, dietary changes are all they need, and that's generally fine for them. And then they like there is a point at which the tissue continues growing, so you will eventually need surgery. But to really mitigate like the day-to-day symptoms, dietary change might be all that some people need, or it could be some regular pain assistance, or helping with sleep or something. A lot of people will go on to hormonal medication,
Right.
so various types of birth control. That does not work for me. My body does not like female hormones, it turns out. So, which we'll get to. Don't worry.
Okay.
There's a reason. But yeah, it very much didn't help me at all. It just made things worse. We've tried like 3 or 4 different types of hormonal birth control stuff, and no, no, it's like the worst.
That
So
trial and error thing, though, is
yeah,
horrendous with chronic illnesses. We don't
yes,
talk. We should maybe do an episode just on
just
that.
on the trial and error. Yeah,
Arrive and to well managed, if at all. Because
yes.
that journey's horrible.
So yeah, it's rough. It's a rough journey. Yeah. So I had basically they operated in May of 2021. And when the surgeon met with me after surgery, she was like, "Okay, so you definitely have endometriosis. I mean, you didn't need me to tell you that. We've taken care of that we can see so far. But you definitely also have PCOS or polycystic ovary syndrome, which is chronic illness number 2." um, which is basically a condition where it's there are various reasons that this happens, but basically your ovaries end up with lots of cysts on them. And those are very painful, as you might imagine. Having cysts on any organ is painful, and because ovaries move a bit, yeah, the cysts end up getting agitated a lot. So PCOS, and part of it is that, but this is what I was talking about with hormones. I also hormonally have PCOS. So there are like 3 different ways that you can be diagnosed with PCOS. Well, 3 different criteria, and you have to meet 2 of them basically. So you have to have polycystic ovaries, or you have to have abnormal hormone levels for women. And there are a couple different hormones, and I won't get into the details because we'll be here all night. But there's a hormonal thing. Or what is the other one? I don't remember the other one. Well, I okay,
It's
hold
okay.
on. Let me quickly.
So you're just like me on Twitch. I was like,
This is
guys,
like,
I
"Oh,
need to
no,
get the
wait a
answer.
minute." It's like I have an answer in my head, but my brain is like, "Is that correct?" Because I haven't looked at it in so long. Yeah, you have irregular cycles, basically,
Okay. Yeah.
which is good. That's what I thought it was, and then I was like, "But isn't that hormones kinda?" So, yeah, okay, alright. Don't second guess yourself is the moral there. Um so yeah, so I had the polycystic ovaries and the hormonal stuff. And you can have all 3 of them, but you only need 2 to be diagnosed.
Okay.
So basically in surgery, they were like, "Well, we were in that area, we could see you had polycystic ovaries." It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So yeah, and then they also said, we're looking at those organs, you also almost certainly have or will imminently have adenomyosis. Adenomyosis is basically the same thing as endometriosis. And if you thought the graphic descriptions were done, I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
you go for it. We're not here to sugarcoat
um,
stuff. We're here to get
yeah.
people to sit up and listen.
So
So
adenomyosis is the same as endometriosis, and the only way that they differ is in where they happen. So, endometriosis, the tissue grows anywhere outside of the uterus in the body. For adenomyosis, it grows through the uterus, like it
Oh,
goes
okay.
through the wall of the uterus. It will just eat right through it, which is great. Adding additional pain and misery
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm
to
sure
the
that's not a walk in
equation.
the park.
Yeah, yeah. So effectively at the time of surgery, they were saying, well, it's not clear that it's, actually actively going through yet. Obviously, we're not going to biopsy your uterus or anything to check. But you probably like within the next few months, you will probably have symptoms that are very clearly adenomyosis. And that did happen. So so that's another one. And both of those again, PCOS and PCOS is often a dietary mitigation kind of thing, although that's one of my medical horror stories. Um, the surgeon it was not a PCOS specialist, and she told me to go on the strictest keto diet possible to treat PCOS, and she told me to do it immediately after surgery. And for those who don't know, a keto diet basically is mimicking starvation in the body, without actively necessarily starving you, but it's basically starvation. And so telling anybody to do that without proper dietary assistance is a problem. But especially telling someone to do that immediately after surgery with the threat
Yeah,
of
when
heart
you need
attack and diabetes, really bad. And
and you need your strength to
it was,
recover, and it's just
yeah.
that's madness.
I continued asking them for assistance in it other than just the app that they recommended, for a full year. don't give people the benefit of a full year. Don't do that to yourself. They just kept not giving me assistance, and then eventually said, "Well, we're not PCOS specialists, so you really need to talk to a PCOS specialist." I was like, "Why didn't you say that to my GP
Yeah.
or to me, to anybody?" So yeah, so that was that.
Yeah,
At
that's
this point,
horrendous.
that is one of the downsides, and I think the I don't talk about this like ever really, but I now have a very poor relationship with food, as you might imagine. So,
Oh, yeah, no, that's just
yeah,
understandable.
so it's I mean, it's getting better, but it is something with chronic illness that's a lot of the time the treatments that we try or the things that we're told to do end up creating issues themselves. And some of those are like actual physical issues, and some of those are mental issues. And yeah, it's awful. So yeah, if somebody tells you to try keto and doesn't put you in touch with a dietitian, have them write to your GP about it. And if they don't write to your GP, don't do it.
Yeah,
That
and
would be my advice. It's
this
not
is
worth
this
it.
is where this is where the regulars hear me go off on
Yeah.
my Instagram rant about people calling themselves advocates and then prescribing that sort of stuff, and that's just, it
Mhm.
just shows how dangerous it is.
So
And I think
dangerous.
in the world we live in at the moment, it's scary how quickly someone
Yeah.
can just chuck a title and start throwing that sort
Yeah.
of information
And
out.
in
So
fairness to the surgeon, they are an endometriosis specialist. They're very good with endometriosis. They're not
yeah,
very good at all with PCOS. And you wouldn't necessarily know that. I mean, I didn't think that she was the one telling me that I had PCOS. So, so it is something to keep in mind that people's specialties doesn't necessarily cover things even that seem related. Make sure
yeah.
you talk about it with you with a GP and get something in writing as well, from the person who's prescribing it. But yeah, so that was where chronic illnesses numbers 2 and 3 were diagnosed.
You're doing very well to keep up with the numbers on this, so thank you. Really appreciate
Yeah, I was like,
it.
"Oh, actually, there are 3 more that I need to talk about." So, well, technically 4, but one of them barely appears. There are 4. So then after this year of, dietary struggles, I finally spoke with someone who was like, "Let's just refer you to a dietitian." I was like, "I've been asking for that for a year," and they finally were able to put it through. Basically, I don't know what the issue was before, but anyway, a dietitian met with me and was like, "Oh, let's talk," and we talked about PCOS. For the record, in the UK, dietitians recommend following a Mediterranean diet for PCOS, which is very different to a keto diet. You might notice. Mediterranean diet is basically like traditional Italian, Greek kind of Mediterranean diets, very healthy, generally what a lot of dietitians recommend in general across the board. So I was talking to this dietitian, and he said, is there anything that you're noticing, like foods that you have issues with or anything? And I said, well, yeah, stuff like it's stuff with like onions or mushrooms or like sometimes garlic. And he was like, oh, that's sounding a lot like IBS. And I was like, oh, I mean, like, okay. And he said, how about you try doing a low FODMAP diet and see what happens. And within like 2 days, there was a massive difference. And I
Oh,
was like,
really?
oh,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
And that was something where I'd been having those kind of digestive issues since I was a teenager, since I was like 13 years old. And he was the first one to be like, "Oh, maybe actually you have a serious digestive system issue." Like, "Oh, thanks, wonderful." So he was like, "Yeah, try this and see what happens," and it helped enormously. And that was probably the thing that allowed me to actually be a streamer and be a YouTuber because before that, nothing. It like there was I was far too ill to do much of anything. But yeah, so that was kind of like summer of 2022. And around the same time, was it around then? I guess actually I skipped over the another chronic illness. I forgot about it. I forget when it happened. Um,
You're sharing so much. I really appreciate it. So don't apologize if you
yeah,
miss
yeah.
it.
I skip over stuff. So basically, interstitial cystitis got diagnosed between the PCOS adenomyosis nonsense and the IBS nonsense. Interstitial cystitis happened. So basically, there was I was continually having additional pelvic pain, basically. And it seemed connected to my bladder in a way. So basically, GP and I did some tests. It seemed like basically pointing in the direction of interstitial cystitis, which is also called, like, I think, bladder pain syndrome, BPS or something.
Right.
Basically, your bladder hurts for reasons unknown sometimes. That's effectively what it is. And it can be extra painful when your bladder is doing its job of what it's supposed to do in a daily function. It can also just hurt a lot when it's not doing much of anything. It just hurts, and sometimes it can be brought on by things you're eating as well. So, for example, if you have tomatoes, that can exacerbate it. If you have like a tomato sauce kind of thing, but also it depends because different people react differently, and it's not well known. And it's one of those things where technically it's not officially diagnosed because the only way to officially diagnose it is through like a surgical biopsy. And my GP was like, "Yeah, no, we're not. No, that's not worth it.
Yeah, yeah,
We're just gonna
for
say you,
enough.
you have enough going on in that region that you probably have this." And I was like, "Okay." So yeah. So then the IBS diagnosis happened, and the dietitian actually said, interstitial cystitis and IBS are often comorbid. So I'm not surprised to hear that you have that as well. I was like, "Oh, okay." So and then IBS is also comorbid with things like PCOS and endometriosis. They're all connected
Mm,
because they're all in the same area.
yeah.
Because that's where all the organs are for fun reasons. Whoever designed humans the way they are, I would like a word about efficiency and and safeguarding. And biology is my enemy at times. Um, yeah, and then in, like, October of 2022, I had severe, like, upper abdominal, well, kind of like rib cage area
Right,
pain,
yeah.
and that was unusual. And basically, I ended up at the out of hours GP again and everything, and they scheduled me to. They were thinking that I might have gallstones, and I
Okay.
I said this to my GP, and she was like, "Okay, if you have 6 chronic illnesses and you have gallstones, I don't know what to tell you." And I was like,
Yeah,
"I don't know."
yeah.
I mean, like, that's
Unlucky as
fair.
fuck. Yeah.
So yeah, and then I went for like an ultrasound, and they're like, "Yeah, you have gallstones." I'm like, "Well, GP, you're never gonna guess." But yeah. But then they referred me to a gastro specialist to talk about like next steps, if it's because basically with gallstones, there's the main way to resolve it is through surgery, but only if it's really affecting your day. And I met with the specialist, and he said, "Well, actually, a lot of the symptoms you're describing that are in that area are actually more consistent with IBS symptoms that are maybe a
Right.
little bit exacerbated by the gall. So you definitely still have this issue, and it may flare from time to time, but it is not nearly so bad that we need to like remove your gallbladder." So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's great." So yeah, so those are the 7 chronic illnesses.
That's just my first question. How do you like if I'm sitting at home watching this, I'm thinking like, how do you know what's flaring? What's like can you tell the difference in pain? Like 'cause it's everything's so close together there, isn't
Uh,
it? Like
that's an excellent question. I can sometimes, and sometimes I can't. Um, the part of it is that, like, when the endometriosis and the PCOS are flaring, they're usually flaring together. Same with adenomyosis. Like, all 3 of those, they'll flare at the same time,
right.
unless there's, like, a cyst that has, gone off the rails or
Yeah.
something. They're generally all at once, which means that it's extra painful, but it also means that helpfully, I know that it's the 3 of them doing their thing all at once. When with the digestive stuff, though, that just doesn't function on a daily basis. So there's an element of like and it's not particularly awfulness. Well, it's mostly what it is like I'll sit down, I'll have like my husband and I will have cooked something, and we'll be sitting down to eat it, and I'll have like 2 bites of whatever we're eating, and then my brain is just like, "Yeah, we're done. We're not eating more of this. Nope, sorry, can't do it." Uh, and and I'm like, oh, okay, wonderful. I've got like a full plate of food here, and I can't do anything with it. Or it'll be like days at a time where my brain will just be like, yeah, no, we're not eating anything but granola bars or toast for three
That must
days.
be hard when you associate with that pain. Do you know what I mean? Like as
Yeah.
somebody that, that so my pain really spikes, I can vomit, and then
Hmm.
I won't want to do certain things because I will feel sick. And I know
Yeah.
walking the dog doesn't make me feel sick, but it's like that safety mode, isn't it, that your brain
Yeah.
goes into?
Yeah. It's yes, there you find the foods that are like foolproof for you, I think is
Yeah,
a I don't know if that's a proper term for it, but basically like the foods that you like there are certain things that I know my stomach and my brain will always accept without
yeah,
question. One of those is tea, one of those is granola bars, one of those is toast. So or like white rice usually. But yeah, anything else. I always have those stocked in the house somewhere and then hope that I can have a vegetable or something and
yeah.
that I can have like today I had an apple. That was great. I had an apple for the first time in like 3 weeks or more. It's been a
Yeah.
long time since I've had fruit. So it's yeah, it's a little bit rough because the like you can imagine if you're having flares every week or every other week where you're not able to eat much more than granola bars, your body doesn't do so hot.
Yes.
But helpfully the dietitian that I was talking to, he was, I was feeling kind of like, oh, my nutrition is tanked, and he said, well, yeah, that's true. However, the choices that you're making, like when you're in a flare and you're needing to make food decisions, you're not making the decision between a healthy meal and a granola bar. You're making the decision between a granola bar or nothing.
Yeah.
And that helped reframe everything to a point where yeah, it just took all of the guilt, the feeling of guilt
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
those kind of flares. And I eat a lot of granola bars. Not gonna lie, there are a lot of granola bars. But I
That
don't.
word guilt though comes up on the show so many times. Where
Yeah,
someone will flare, they'll blame themselves, or
yeah,
unfortunately, a medical professional at some point has made them feel like they did something to cause it, and then
yeah,
it sticks with people. So yeah, that word is very
yeah.
common.
And I think it's also common, like for people with chronic illnesses, people who certainly for people who become disabled over the course of their life. And I think that applies to chronic illness, but I also think it's wider ranging than that. There is a degree to which we lose physical fitness in one way or another. And society is like, you must be physically active and physically fit, or you're not a good enough person. So it can be really difficult not to internalize, the changes that you're seeing with your ability to do things, and make that, it's really difficult to not let that translate into you're a terrible person and you're failing.
Yeah.
And as an overachiever, it's a problem. And so I feel like the yeah, that dietitian, like there are certain medical professionals that I can point to that changed things drastically for me in a positive way, and he's one of them.
That's brilliant.
Just from saying that one thing of like, you're not choosing between a healthy meal and rice. You're choosing between rice and nothing. So if your options are rice, a granola bar, some toast, or nothing, pick the one that has the most nutrients that you haven't had recently.
Yeah.
And similar, I some what am I saying? Words. Another thing that recently has been a thing is, having fresh fruit and veg can be really difficult when you have digestive issues because your stomach doesn't want them and then they go bad and then you've got an entire thing of apples that nobody has eaten and they've
Yeah.
gone bad and everything. Food waste is massive. And so we try to reduce it as much as we can. And one way to do that, for example, is to have something like apple juice instead of fresh apples.
Hmm.
And obviously, apple juice is not the most nutritious of things. But again, when the choice is between apple juice and nothing, or apple juice and no fruit at all, then the apple juice is actually still providing something, so
It's that
it's nice to
reframing,
have it
isn't it?
reframed. Yeah.
We talk about it a lot when we have people on here with long-term pain and chronic pain, that okay, I can't do what I used to do there, but doing this is something. Or if
Yeah.
I do this little bit of movement and I suffer a bit tomorrow, that's a good pain. It's a different type of pain
Mhm.
to what, and it is that reframe, but it's so hard to
Yeah.
it's like unwiring your brain, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's, yeah, the socialization is is difficult to undo,
Yeah.
yeah, and it happens in literally every element of your life is the other thing, and I know I'm preaching to the choir for a lot of people, but for anybody who doesn't have chronic illness or for anybody who is going through chronic illness and, maybe your early days, it can feel like everything you do feels like a failure because how can you call it a success when all you did was make it to the bathroom and take a shower? I'm here to
Yeah.
tell you that taking a shower takes a lot of effort. If I have a day where I have showered, that is a win. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that is amazing. So don't get upset at yourself for, not making it to, not having a nutritious meal or whatever. Like you're doing fine. You're
Yeah.
doing fine for your circumstances.
That's it. It's all perspective, and like I as well, I find I have to remind myself as well. I'm not getting any younger, and the trouble is, a lot of my grief links back to like my early 20s when a lot of
Mm.
my disability started. And try to remind myself, Joel, you're nearly 40. You wouldn't be able to do what you did then anyway,
Yeah.
regardless of your
Yeah.
condition. Just accept you're getting old. But
Yeah.
I think unfortunately, your brain is just instantly. It's like you're
Mhm.
looking to blame something, aren't you? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it can be sort of wasted energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. That was so much there. And like I say, you made my
Yeah.
job really easy because I could just sit and listen. So I took all of that in, which is rare because I'm often having to think, right, what's the next question? Where are we going to go next? So for you to just go through all of that so effortlessly and you speak so well, I really appreciate it. I'm conscious that we've got a lot of people watching us live here on the Chronic Pain Club that want to hear us talk more about games and
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
archaeology and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
let's
So
talk about fun stuff.
but what I would say before we move on, so 'cause I
Mhm.
feel I'm being like really cold that you've shared all of that, and we're now just moving. But there
No,
is a
no.
link here, guys.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
thank you to everyone that's got involved in the live chat. It's been amazing to watch that. And for
Mhm.
those of you that are listening to this back on the podcast, please do try and catch us live one evening on YouTube because yeah, it's a really supportive community. But so obviously let's start with archaeology. Where did that come from? I'd love to know how you got into
Sure.
that.
Yeah. So when I was a teenager, my aunt worked at a summer camp where teenagers from across the world went to summer camp to learn like peace building, dialogue, cultural connectivity kind of skills. And so I went when I was like 13 because that was the youngest you could be and still be able to go. And I was obsessed with other cultures and other places and other languages. And so I did. And it was phenomenal. And I remember my mom picked me up. This was like a 3 week long summer camp. So on the longer side for summer camps. And my mom picked me up and she was like, how's it going? I was like, it's good. I wish that I could just like learn about other people's cultures for a living, like that I could just do that for a job. And she looked at me and she goes, "Honey, you can. It's a field called anthropology." I was like, "You're joking." And she's like, "No, you can." So basically from when I was about 13 years old, I was like, "I'm going to be an anthropologist." And that was like one track mind. And then I got to college where I could obviously actually study anthropology and learned that archaeology was part of it. There's in well in okay, so in the United States, anthropology has four subfields, which are biological anthropology, linguistic anthropology, cultural anthropology, and archaeological anthropology. Biological anthropology has a lot to do with human biology, and that can include human evolution, but it also includes humans' relationships to diseases and healthcare and things like that. Linguistic anthropology is human languages and how humans relate to each other through language. Cultural anthropology is modern human cultures and how they're interacting today. And then archaeological anthropology is literally anything that humans have done, but in the past. Um, so, so I got really interested in archaeology, which I kind of already like. I was always kind of into history and things. My dad worked at an outdoor museum, so I had been working like I started working at outdoor museums when I was like 13. So it was I
You
was
had
primed.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, I was primed. But yeah, the in college, I really loved learning anthropology, but one of the things that struck me in my first year of anthropology classes was that a lot of the classes I had for linguistic, like I love languages, and I was like, oh, I could be a linguist. That would be really cool. And then I took linguistic classes, like classes in linguistics, and felt like a lot of like a lot of the people were being taken out of the study of linguistics, and that is
Okay.
not accurate for the field of linguistics right now today. But that was the impression that I was getting as a first year student in the classes I was taking. And the same was true of the cultural anthropology classes. I felt like a lot of it, it got boiled down into kinship charts. And I was like, I'm not here for, like, I mean, kinship is interesting as a concept. I am not here to learn how to properly create a kinship chart unless that's important to the people I'm talking to. So I wasn't like disappointed, but I was a little hesitant. Whereas archaeology, the thing that I love about archaeology is that we don't have the people anymore. So we're
Yeah.
desperately trying to put them back into the story. And if we had the people there, then we would love to talk to them. And again, this is, these were impressions of a first year student several decades ago. So it's not the state of the field today. It's not even, probably not even the state of the field then either. But yeah, so I gravitated towards archaeology, and for a while I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study, and then okay, all right. This is where you're gonna learn that I'm a massive nerd. If you didn't guess that already from the PhD in archaeology.
we,
um
we're both streaming Minecraft. Like we can't.
that too. That too. That's true. Yeah. So I when I was in like my first year of undergrad, I said I was into languages as a teenager. I mean, I still like languages. They're cool. I was curious about linguistics in general, and if you read any books that had been written about learning languages in the like 2000s ish, you would have heard the trope that Indonesian is the easiest language for a native English speaker to learn, and it was repeated in like all of these books. And I kept reading that sentence and be like, "Are you sure?" because because that seems ridiculous that like Indonesian would be easy to learn. So I set out to learn Indonesian, even though
Okay.
it's not really possible in Rhode Island, of all places. But a friend of mine, weirdly, coincidentally, a friend of mine had actually lived in Indonesia in the 80s, and he still had like his dictionaries and language books. So he gave those to me, and I taught myself Indonesian. And then I studied abroad in Indonesia in my second year
Oh
of
wow.
university. And while I was there, I took archaeology classes in Indonesian in Indonesia, and I became really interested in the archaeology of Indonesia. And to answer the question, no, it's not the easiest language to
I
learn.
was
I
gonna
don't think.
say that's a long
Um,
way to go to find out
yeah.
if it's the
Well,
easiest.
I mean, there was other. As soon as I started learning, there were other interests that kept me going. But yeah.
I will prove this
Um,
right or wrong.
yeah, it's Indonesian is one of those languages where like it's easy to pick up how to sound like a 2-year-old who doesn't quite know the language. Like not even a regular 2-year-old, but also like just a 2-year-old that is still figuring out what words do.
Yeah.
So you can form sentences. You're not going to sound good at all. And people, the other thing is that Indonesians are very nice, because if they meet people who are trying to speak Indonesian, generally speaking, they're surprised and like, oh, that's
Okay, yeah.
great. Like it, yeah, in this sort of, oh, it's fantastic that you're learning my language and you sound phenomenal, even if you're not putting words together in a coherent manner. If you want to sound like an academic in Indonesian, not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. At least if your native language is English. If your native language is like Malaysian, then you're doing a lot. That's going to be a lot simpler. But
Yeah,
yeah.
because I think the closer the distance, the more the words
Yeah,
overlap.
yeah,
So I like the,
exactly.
You
Well,
should be
yeah,
able to
and there are
walk if you walked
historical
really
reasons
slowly.
why if
Yeah.
you speak Malay, Indonesian will be easier, because the Dutch actually took Malay and turned it into Indonesian. So
Yeah.
so but yeah, so I became interested in Southeast Asian archaeology. And again, like if you thought I was a nerd before, just you wait. The In Southeast Asia, a lot of what survives are like stone structures are one thing, stone and brick. And then in terms of like material culture, like the actual objects that people are using on a day-to-day basis, we don't get a whole lot because a lot of it is organic stuff and it's broken down in the jungle, right? So glass was a thing that survived, and glass beads in particular were things that survived, and they survived in their thousands in Southeast Asia. There are so many sites with so many beads, and they were making these glass beads and trading them. And it turns out they were trading them as far as like Rome. um, yeah, they a seafaring ship in the late sort of 8th to 9th century in Indonesia could make it from Indonesia all the way to Madagascar without stopping, so long as they use the monsoon winds. And we know this in part because they drew it, well, they carved it on various temple walls, but also because some archaeologists recreated the boat and they did the trip, and
I
they're
don't
like, yeah,
know.
no, this is possible. so,
Yeah, we definitely don't
so
give
yeah,
people enough credit for what happened before us.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like a theme, isn't it?
Yeah. So I became very interested in glass beads and sort of long distance trade between Southeast Asia and the surrounding kind of regions. And then there was a point at which sort of felt very out of place doing archaeology in Indonesia, which is nothing against Indonesia or Indonesians. They're phenomenal. Really, I was looking around and seeing that Indonesia has a lot of really fantastic archaeologists who are from Indonesia and talking about Indonesian ancient culture. And I was like, well, I'm a white girl from America. I don't know, I don't know how appropriate it is necessarily. Like, what can I come in and teach them about their own ancestors? That feels a little colonial.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I sort of took a while and tried to figure out what the best way to support them would be, and came to the realization that it would be to like to uplift their voices as much as possible, but to also get out of their way, and go do something else. So that's I was kind of like figuring out what to do, and I had so right. My life sounds very weird and slapdash, and that's
No, it's
kind of,
amazing.
I mean,
Like every week we share these chronic illness experiences and it get really heavy. I'm no straight away thinking this format needs to change. We need to get people on, share their experience, and then tell us a completely different story about their life,
completely different story.
so we can get the whole
Mhm.
person. I love it.
Yeah. So I when I was still in doing my undergraduate degree, and I was going to apply for a PhD program actually. So in North America, when you do an anthropology degree, you get your bachelor's and then you apply for a joint master's and PhD, and you get them both in the same program,
Okay.
which is one reason why it takes longer to do a PhD in the United States. So I was applying and I had reached out to someone I wanted to work with and did the sort of like, this is who I am, but also I'm going to add a question so that you don't think I'm weird. And so, yeah. So my question was like, is there anything, given all of that, is there anything you can think of that would make my application stronger when I do submit it in the fall? And she came back and said, oh yeah, if you have like a second or third excavation season under your belt, that'd be great. I was like, huh, I have not done any excavation because it's not a requirement at we don't have an excavation program at my university. And I was not told I needed to do that for grad school. And this was like June, May to
Oh,
June of that
okay.
year. I was sending like of my like summer between then and my final year. I had like 3 months before I was going to be submitting this application. I was like, oh no. And it was also like after a lot of the field schools had already. So field schools in archaeology is basically how archaeologists learn how to dig. We go to a field school, and that's where you learn the practical stuff with trowels and mattocks and such. And so I was kind of scrambling. The ones that I could find that were in the US were like 5 grand. They were a lot of money. And I was like, I don't have 5 grand I can just drop on this. And like I had some that I had been saving kind of that maybe, but yeah. And then I found a program in Scotland that was going to cost a total of $3,000 for the entire program plus the room and board plus the plane tickets. And I was like, well, and I get to go to Scotland. I mean, obviously. And
What about
my
now you've
family's
experienced the weather? Would that still seem
yes.
as
Well,
exciting?
I have stayed. So,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, and in addition to that, my family's ancestry is from Scotland. So
Oh,
there was
okay,
a family
brilliant.
connection as well. But yeah, so I did the field school in Scotland and we had found some glass. There were some glass beads that we found, but we found them in the spoil heap, which is like the dirt that you've already taken out of the ground and you've put in a pile. So
Yeah.
we didn't know where they came from. And this, it was very sad, but also very exciting. And so when I was trying to figure out what to do, I remembered that one of the staff members from this Scottish dig had connected with me about the glass and was like, "Oh, let's talk about the glass beads." And so I reached out to him again and was like, "Would you potentially be interested in doing like a PhD with me? But instead of focusing on the first millennium AD in Southeast Asia, if we could do that in Scotland for glass, that'd be cool." And he thankfully was like, "Yeah, I do remember you. We could definitely do that." I was like,
Awesome.
"Okay." So yeah, so then I came across he said, maybe do a master's first because you're going to have to take some time to adjust to figuring out how, Scottish archaeology works. And I was like, that's fair. So I did a master's degree. I was going to continue for the PhD, but then I didn't have like a solid funding situation. And I mean, like in the end, I didn't have one anyway, but I felt like I couldn't really justify it of like, I'm going to go into massive amounts of educational debt to look at glass beads. As much as I would love to be able to do that, I was like, I don't know. But then, like a year later or so, I was thinking about doing photography and thinking about photography and 3D modeling in archaeology and doing that with objects that don't lend themselves well to photographing or imaging. And glass is one of those. It
Mhm.
refracts light, it reflects light, it does all sorts of nonsense. So my PhD was in 3D modeling of archaeological small finds, which are the sort of portable things that people have, focusing mostly on materials that don't really work with the algorithms as they were at the time. And yeah, and there you go. That's my more or less my academic career in a nutshell.
That's amazing. That's like, I'm
Yeah.
absolutely loving this genuinely because we tend to just see that chronic illness journey. We don't see the whole person always, or let's say some of the topics could be like really heavy and you'll try and maybe see if they're coping well and that'll be your high to sort of like end on. So
Mhm.
to have all of them the medical stuff and now we're hearing about Heather the person and
Yeah.
all the stuff that your hopes and dreams and stuff whilst you've got these conditions as well. I think it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
paints such a fuller picture. I'm loving it. So thank you for
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
it also
Well,
helps
and
I could listen to you talk all day 'cause just you speak so well.
it was rough as well though, because as you can imagine, I mean, not that chronic illness is ever not rough,
Yeah.
but as you can imagine, as somebody who's worked in outdoor museums since I was like 12 or 13 years old and who has a PhD in archaeology, I got my PhD in April of 2019. Was when it was technically awarded, and like the graduation was in June of 2019. And so that was a mere 6 months before I was diagnosed with endometriosis and severely
Yeah.
disabled. So basically, I spent like 15 years working towards this degree, and the point of the degree was to be able to teach archaeology at a university and do research and everything. And obviously that's not happening, and it can't happen because I can't commit to a regular schedule with chronic illness, as I'm sure regulars of this show are aware. But
As you found out when we first scheduled this
yeah,
discussion
as
in.
anyone who was looking forward to this a few weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And, but the nice thing is, that's going back to the chronic illness stuff and gaming, because I've rambled long enough that we haven't even gotten to that yet. When I was, like, really struggling with chronic illness and just in a lot of pain, I was doing a lot of gaming. But there was also like there's all that process that you go through of like the stages of grief of mourning the possibilities of what could have been kind of thing.
Yep.
There was a lot of bargaining. I did a lot of bargaining. I was there for a while, and eventually realized that like even a part-time teaching position at a university isn't something that I can do because I can't say yes, I'm available at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like
Yeah.
that, I don't know. I can't guarantee that. There was a point at which I was in that kind of depressive spiral and really struggling. And then I kept thinking about YouTube, and I had watched a lot of Minecraft while I was stuck waiting for surgery, and I kept thinking about Minecraft as a gaming YouTube kind of as a possibility. And then I realized, obviously, with Minecraft, you can build whatever you want. So I started building. I had this idea of like building the pyramid at Chichen Itza in a Minecraft video and talking about why the pyramid at Chichen Itza is interesting archaeologically, and that's the first Minecraft video I published. And I remember like sitting down when I first published that video, and I was like, okay, if in like 10 years this channel is like for monetization, like for measurable goals, if this channel brings in like 50 pounds a month in 10 years, that will be enough. Like that was the highest that I dared to dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been doing that for over a year now. It's it's
It's
kind of wild.
amazing.
But
But
yeah,
it
and
should do,
it's
because your skill, for anyone that hasn't gone and seen the ArchaeoPlays chat, go check out Heather's channel, because the
yeah.
skill and the commitment, and also the way you deliver the videos as well, like, with the top down and the way it's all sped up to see the
Yeah.
build. I just, yeah, as somebody that has failed massively with YouTube because I don't have the patience for the editing, and I love the
Don't say that on your
conversations.
YouTube channel, dude.
Yeah, I just, you see what you see is what you get with me. But it's just like, so I do the
Yeah.
conversation stuff, we do the recordings, we do the Twitch streams, I do the podcast stuff. But when it comes to actually getting the nuggets and putting it into something that I know could do so much better, I have had somebody kindly in the community come forward and offer to do the editing for me, because we know
That's
that we're not
help.
reaching our potential.
Editing takes so much
Yeah,
time.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when I see those videos of your builds, I have nothing but admiration, because I know what's involved to get them to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm about to release a mini series. It might be this week, it might be next week. It's probably gonna be next week. There's been enough flare action happening. It's probably gonna be next week. But it's a whole mini series. It's 5 episodes all about bricks and brickworks. So episode 1 is mud bricks, where mud bricks come from, how you make mud bricks, how you build a factory that makes mud bricks in Minecraft. And episode 2 is fired bricks. Episode 3 is chemically set bricks like concrete bricks. Like it's a lot about bricks. Bricks are really interesting. I did not I mean, like I wasn't expecting them to be super boring, but I was like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like mud bricks, there's so much work being done in making mud bricks even more sustainable than they already are. Like you can put plastics into mud bricks and they'll do the same thing as straw, but they do it better. They make it actually stronger. And like yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So anyway, you have that to look forward to in the there'll
Yeah,
be a
just,
video a week for like 5 weeks straight
and the
about
level of
bricks.
detail you go into is already, for those that are watching us live. We will be co-streaming on Thursday, I believe it is, on
Yeah.
Minecraft. Can you now see, for my regulars, you know how terrible I am at the game, why I'm getting like night terrors over this? Because like I'm going in and I don't even know how to make a certain block, and there's you unpicking and linking to the past every
Yeah.
single element of the
Yeah.
game. I'm so screwed on Thursday.
I continually end up having to build things in Minecraft that I'm like, I didn't think I was ever going to build this in Minecraft. So one of them was explaining archaeological geophysical survey in Minecraft. Obviously, we don't have the pieces in Minecraft to do that, so I made do with hanging signs when they first came out, and I also put a screaming goat in a minecart and used that as sonar. So which was a lot of fun. But yeah, and then this one, there's a thing called a pug mill, which is basically a machine that like spits out the clay in the right measurements for a brick, and then you kind of push it through a wall of wax. I had to figure out how to build that kind of machine. Like I'd never seen that before starting research for this video, and then I was like, how do I build this in Minecraft? Like I don't know.
It's just like,
Yeah, there's a certain amount of me waffling around that gets cut from the video.
meanwhile, I'm proud when I build a house that doesn't look like it's got an emoji face on the front from
Hey,
the
I
windows
mean,
and the door.
that is an accomplishment. It's hard to build a house that doesn't look like it has a face on it
Yeah,
because
I spent a year figuring that out in
yeah,
the game.
yeah, that is hard to do. Yeah.
So obviously with like Minecraft, the archaeological sort of links are obvious, and you can then drill back. And we've heard you tonight
Yeah,
already. You know how well spoken you are on that, and how passionate you are on that. Was there like other elements of like Minecraft where that, I don't know, like in terms of, I play it for escapism because I can kind of be someone else and disappear
yeah,
into a different world. Does that apply to you with Minecraft, or is it purely just because of the
100%.
links?
No,
Okay.
no, there's a lot of escapism. A lot of the time when I'm like, if I've had to cancel a stream, I'm usually playing Minecraft or I'm playing like some other game that I just find easy to do when I've got brain fog and I can't think straight. And that chronic illness. This is another thing. If you don't have a chronic illness, you may not be aware of this, but for everyone who has a chronic illness, you have that moment where you hit the wall. And
Yep.
with chronic illness, it's not a question of if you're gonna hit the wall that day, it's a question of when. And it might happen at 8:15 in the morning, it might happen at 5:32 at night, you never know. And it could like, you could wake up feeling fine, and then half an hour later, you're like, "No, I'm done. I should
Yep.
not be doing anything of any consequence right now." Yeah, those moments, I absolutely turn to Minecraft. And the So I play a lot of modded Minecraft when it's like kind of on my free time because I don't do modded stuff really for my content creation. I have some texture differences and such, but I don't generally do like the content mods that Minecraft can have. So I have such a special place in my heart for Sky Factory 4.
Right.
It is such a good mod pack, and particularly like Sky Factory 4 in general, but especially Sky Factory 4, the version that's called Compact Sky. It's a map where you start in like a compact machine. It's a 3x3 box, and then you eventually get slightly bigger boxes.
Right.
And
I've
the
never
nice
seen
thing
this.
about it is that mobs don't spawn in that map because they can't spawn inside the boxes. So you're safe until you create like a little mob farm thing, and then okay, if I go over here, then I'm not safe. But otherwise, if I'm outside of that particular box, it doesn't matter. I'm perfectly fine. And I play with keep inventory on in Minecraft
Right.
unless
Yeah.
I'm on somebody else's server because chronic illness is difficult enough. You don't need the added difficulty of losing all the stuff that you just spent 2 hours
Yeah.
collecting in Minecraft.
That's a
Um,
topic we've discussed at length with
yeah,
our SMPs
yeah,
about the pros and
yeah.
cons.
Yeah, I do keep inventory. Sometimes I'll have keep inventory, but if I perish, I'll be like, "Okay, I have to get rid of like 3 items or something." So that it's not the whole thing and I don't lose like my weapons or my armor or something, but maybe I lose a stack of seeds that I was carrying that I really wanted or something. Sometimes I'll do that. Most of the time I just play with keep inventory because again, there's 7 chronic illnesses. There's enough that I'm dealing with. I don't need Minecraft to kick me while I'm down. Um, and Minecraft is very good sometimes at kicking you while you're down.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. So Minecraft is very much, yeah, there's a lot about escapism for me. And there's also a lot about being kind of this is related, I promise. Or at least it's related in my head. One of the things in archaeology that's difficult is that we in my maybe not so humble opinion, we have a bit of a communication problem. And it's not that we don't want to talk about archaeology, it's that when people who aren't archaeologists try to talk to archaeologists about archaeology, there can be this tendency from archaeology to be like, "Oh, you don't know this thing, but it's like all over the field. How could you not know this thing?" And it's like, "Well, where did you put it? Like, where's the publicly accessible journal article where this was published? Where's the book that this is
Yeah.
in?"
Yeah.
And sometimes there are sources like that are publicly available, but a lot of the time there isn't necessarily. And it's easy as an academic. And I say this as an archaeology problem. It's a problem in all academic spaces. I'm just familiar with the archaeology one. But yeah, the sort of idea that people who for example, who don't know that the pyramids weren't built by slaves, that they're somehow disillusioned or whatever. It's like, well, where is the publicly facing, information that says that in a way that's accessible to people, that isn't necessarily just in a museum display? I'm all for museum displays, but people who self-select to go to museums, we don't need to attract them to archaeology and the past. They're already there.
Yeah.
People who aren't self-selecting to go into museums, those are the people we kind of want to reach. And we're not going to reach them by putting up another museum display. Bottom line, I've worked in a lot of museums. A lot of them are doing really cool, really innovating things and bringing in new audiences that way by going untraditional, museum display routes. And I think that's phenomenal. But there are a large number of people who just will not go to a museum, just point blank in general. So if I can sit here playing Minecraft and be like, hey, here's discussion about ancient Egyptian pyramids, let's go on a deep dive, that's potentially reaching people who wouldn't have access to that information otherwise, or wouldn't be able to know where to look for that information. And hopefully it's delivered in an interesting way, because otherwise that defeats the purpose. But
no, it really is. I love that, and I think that's why I was jumping up and down like an excited school kid when I stumbled upon you and what you were doing. When I started telling my wife, like, they play Minecraft, they got chronic illnesses, they tried to do it in a way which reaches people, like, because obviously everything that I do regarding advocacy is about trying to, the whole reason I do this on YouTube, then it goes into a podcast, then I go onto Twitch and play games. It's all about that, trying to meet people where they are and trying to support people in a place that they're already residing. So when I see what you're doing with the archaeology and the Minecraft stuff in that format and merging those two things together, I just think it's really unique, and you do it brilliantly, and in a way that's really like watchable as well, and let alone the skill in the game as well. I think that gets overlooked because your knowledge is so great. And
well, you haven't seen any PvE or PvP yet. Don't. I mean, I'm decent at building. I am not good at PvP.
I've got no interest in PvP in Minecraft. There's so many games
really
you
bad
can play.
at fighting anything in Minecraft. There are places where I'm very much not skilled. But yeah, and the other connected to that, particularly from a point of activism and visibility, when I was trying to figure out, oh well, I could do a YouTube channel, but I've got so many chronic illnesses, is that even going to work? There is a well-known disabled content creator in the Minecraft universe. He goes by Good Times with Scar, and he has. I don't know that he's necessarily said exactly what it is. I'm not entirely sure they know, but he has a muscular condition where basically his muscles do not work. And so he's a wheelchair user. He has a feeding tube, that kind of stuff. And he is a very popular Minecraft content creator, and he does amazing stuff in the Minecraft sphere. And so seeing him be as open as he was about his situation helped me feel like I could do that too. And so part of it is just getting that reassurance from him, but also, knowing how much that meant to me. If I can provide that for other people, then I absolutely want to do that.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and I love that everybody's inspired by somebody else, aren't they? This is like big, like journey. Like, I had somebody sort of like congratulate me on a piece of work the other day. I was like, no, literally, you've been doing this 20 years before me. I'm standing on your shoulders.
What do you mean you're thanking me?
Yeah, exactly. Like you show me the way. Like literally, I'm just you held my hand through it. Like, it's just, I love that. I love that there's always somebody else. I'll go check them out after this, because I'm really bad with Twitch. I'm so conscious of, like, I'm on Twitch not because I'm good at computer games. I'm the opposite. I'm uncomfortable in front of camera. I'm getting better at it, but I was very uncomfortable when I started all of this. I'm there because as an advocate, I felt like nobody was doing it. There was no charities doing it. There was no one raising awareness in that space. Things have really come on in the last 2 or 3 years, especially around like sort of minorities and things like that. But at the time, I felt like it was just this need and nobody else was doing it, so I thought I'd give it a go. So I think that's kind of kept me in a bit of a box. Like, the thought of seeing what you're doing just terrifies me and makes me feel really like okay, no one's going to watch this because I'm terrible. So I'm trying to push past that and get a
Yeah.
bit more sociable, which I guess is what brings us on to what we're going to be doing
Yeah.
later on in the week. So what's your Twitch channel for anyone who wants to watch you on
My
Thursday?
Twitch channel, I'm at ArchaeoPlays on every social media you can find me. You will find me on Twitter. I don't exist. Like, I have the account. I don't do anything with it
No,
on
I don't
Twitter
anymore on
anymore.
there.
I
Yeah,
don't, there is so much wrong with that site,
yeah,
and I care more about that than I do about my social media small business stuff. So
yeah.
so you'll find me there, but I won't do anything. So the best places to find me are on Twitch or YouTube. I'm ArchaeoPlays on both of those. And I do have a Discord, actually, that people are welcome to join. You don't have to be subscribed or anything. That I think there's going to be links in places, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll put links. If you send me anything you want included, I'll chuck it
yeah,
into the
sure.
video and the podcast. But if any of
Yeah,
your regulars are watching this in chat, you're absolutely free to put a link in chat. That we're
cool.
not precious about that as well.
And then what are other places? I exist on like Blue Sky and Facebook and Instagram, sort of. Sometimes.
It's chronic illness, isn't
I
it? We only have so
It's
much
chronic illness.
energy to
This is
spread
the
around.
thing with social media is that there's so many of them, and
Yeah,
it's like, oh, and then with Twitter going the way it did, it's like, oh, Twitter was useful for this
yeah,
though, and now
yeah.
everybody's scattered. And
Twitter was my link
yeah.
to the medical community, and then I had to quickly scramble to set up a
Yeah.
LinkedIn account. And I hate
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but it has now. It seems like everybody's morphed and
Disability Twitter has
yeah,
scattered, and
yeah,
it's very sad because
yeah,
that's like, for disabled people, obviously that's like one of our biggest links to
yeah.
other people. And so yeah, there is a degree of that on Blue Sky, but also not. It's uh, we
Yeah,
could
now
go on a
if
long
you send me a
discussion about
list of what you
that,
want to be
but
included, I'll chuck all that
yeah,
in the
sure. Yeah,
description for
yeah.
when the edited video goes up. We've gone way over time. I hope
Oh,
you minded,
sorry,
Heather.
everybody.
No. I'm more concerned about your time on a Monday
Oh,
evening.
I'm fine.
I'm very
I'm not streaming tomorrow on purpose. So
okay.
so
You
I'm
sound like
okay.
me. It's like I had my son's birthday the other weekend. So it's like, I'm not doing the Chronic Pain Club the next day. My wife's like, that's like Sunday evening. Dylan's birthday on
Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah, I'm not going to be ready for that. Even though it's 24 hours, I just know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you planned ahead. But thank you so much for sharing that. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate it. And yeah, so for anyone that's watching on Thursday, 7 o'clock, so regular viewers in chat who are watching us live, will be able to see me on the usual Twitch channel. Archeo's viewers will be able to watch on their channel, and we'll do a Discord voice chat or something so you can hear
Yeah.
us sort of conversing and yeah, enjoy having my community laugh at my expense, because yeah, I'm terrified. It's the first time I've done anything collaboratively on
It'll be
Twitch.
fine.
I've
It'll
done
be
10-hour
fine.
streams and all this sort of stuff, but I've not done the joined up stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, go easy on me.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of Twitch being twitchy, so it's fine. Blame it on Twitch.
Yeah,
That's the secret. When something goes wrong, blame it on Twitch.
yeah. Well, I must admit, I thought there was something wrong. But I didn't realize I'd never seen the co-working streams before, and I joined
Mm,
one of your streams the other day, not
yeah.
realizing I was right in the middle of the
No, I
timer.
felt really badly because
No, you're
you came in and said hello, and I'm like, I shouldn't.
yeah, no,
I
you're
can't do
fine.
that every time. I did say hello, but you may have. I know you were
I
on a
would have
coffee
missed
break
it.
at
I
the
literally
time, so you
jumped
would
in
have
my
missed it. I was
coffee
like, oh
break.
no, I'm so sorry. Yeah,
That's
sorry about
trouble.
that.
I'm a terrible viewer on Twitch because I jump in on my coffee break. I'm there for like 20 minutes, then I'm
Yeah,
gone again, and it
I
happens all the while.
I almost never chat. I mean, I do chat on Twitch, but like I'll chat for all of like 5 minutes. People who are regulars around the spheres that I'm in who are in chat, they can confirm that I jump in, I chat for about 5 to 10 minutes maybe, and then I lurk.
Yeah.
I'm doing something else while watching. So
Yeah, it
I
get
get like
really
10.
grateful for
Yeah.
the ones that do turn up week in, week out and chat for 2
Yeah.
or 3 hours, because yeah,
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. I'm absolutely I'm no good
Yes.
example, and yet they do it every week.
Very grateful to viewers who chat, very grateful to viewers who lurk. D
Yeah.
Twitch would not be what it is without all of you. We would not be doing what we do without all of you, so thank you very much for for
Yeah.
supporting what we do.
And it is noticed as well. I think sometimes people who lurk think maybe, if people don't want to chat, they've all got their own reasons, and sometimes we don't. So I'll always try on every stream say thank you in some capacity, but it
Yeah.
is always noticed. I see the same same names. Sometimes you got people that subscribe and they never say a word, but they still subscribe and support you. And I just think that's an amazing thing, because
we recognize names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we really do. We really do.
We recognize.
Well, I hope people have enjoyed that, guys. Obviously, a bit of a different format tonight, where we've done the usual interview bit and then we've talked off topic. But I've really enjoyed it. Heather, thank you for giving up so much of your time. I think what I'm probably going to do with this is, when this makes it to the podcast, we'll always two-part it. So if there's people, that
feel free. Sorry, I should have warned you that I talk a lot.
No, I've loved it. I loved it, and it's almost made me think that we should be doing this more. Like, this is my chronic illness. This is how it affects me. This is all the other stuff I do. It gives that picture of, like, I think it gives a much better perspective of what people are living with, and when you see your videos and the quality of those videos, and guys, if you haven't found them, if someone could put a link, by the way, in chat for me, because if I've got a really noisy keyboard, I don't want to be typing forever. But if anyone hasn't checked them out, please go and check out Heather's videos. Like, when you see the quality of those, knowing that what you've just told us, I think it just puts stuff into such a better perspective. I've really enjoyed it. Like Nia says, that's change your pace, definitely change your pace. I've enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to let you go now. I think you've already told us where to find you. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before we say goodbye?
I guess just in general PSA to chronically ill folks. I know you probably hear it a lot, but it helps to hear it again. You are doing fine. You're doing the best that you can. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not doing well. If they are not themselves chronically ill, you're doing fine, and you're doing the best that you can, and try not to judge yourself too harshly. Tell your brain to shut it.
I love that. That's absolutely brilliant advice. I think that's a perfect place to end it. Heather, thank you so much for joining us and giving up your Monday evening. Thank you for accommodating me when the dates changed and my health let us down.
Thank you for having me.
And I look very much forward to seeing you on Thursday. Well, I say Thursday. Look forward. With anxiety, I look forward to playing Minecraft with you on Thursday.
We'll go into creative mode, and you can show me how to build an emoji house.
Yeah, okay, I have moved on a little bit, but I was very proud of the windmill I built once, and now all my community, my community says I googled it, but I didn't. I did it from scratch. But that for as long as I live now,
like moving from house to windmill, that's a step.
So who knows? Next year I might know what all the blocks do and everything, and be a proper pro.
Yeah. And then they'll change it again. So
that's it. And not tell anyone really. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving up your time, Heather. I really look forward to catching up with you again on Thursday. This has been fabulous, and enjoy the rest of your week until then.
Absolutely. See you.
Bye-bye. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me bring chat up. There's been some lovely comments in chat. I've tried to feature as many. Chat is now back up on screen for all platforms, so if there's anything you want to repeat, guys, please feel free to. There's been some lovely comments there. So thank you all for everybody that took the time to watch and comment. Like, that's probably the most involved chat we had during normally the interview. Everyone goes really quiet and really attentive, and I love that about our community, that everyone's like hanging on it. And but yeah, we had some lovely stuff shared tonight, guys, so I really appreciate it. Robert, you're welcome. Thank you for hanging out. Genuinely, really appreciated you spending the like I say, we normally do the show for about an hour. So those of you that have been with us from the start, thank you. I appreciate it's half an hour extra, but I've really enjoyed that, and I felt it was really worthwhile. Has anyone got anything else they want to share in chat, guys, before we wrap up? So again, we are a peer support community. So if anyone's got any questions about anything that was talked about, I can't promise to answer. Heather might stick around and answer a few bits, but I can't promise I have the answers, but we can always try and signpost. But I've really enjoyed that. Lauren, I'm already looking at you and thinking this is what we should have done with you. We should have gone through the UC story and then just talked gaming for half an hour. It'd have been great. But like I say, guys, the whole point of what tonight is intentional in that we come on here and we share about lived experiences and our journeys and the good and more often than not the bad side of that. And then the idea of tonight was showing as well a little bit about how we cope and how we manage, and we can't change a lot of that, but we can look at how we deal with it and how we get through the day and what we use for escapism. Heather and I are doing similar things when it comes to computer games. We're doing similar things when it comes to Twitch, albeit they're much better than I. So what we hoped is by giving you a bit of a window into that tonight, you can maybe come check us out over on Twitch. It doesn't matter if you watch Heather's channel, doesn't matter if you watch mine. I'm not precious. You all know that by now. just support someone, listen, give it a minute of your time and see if that works for you, because we've got lots of people in our community that don't have chronic illnesses and they've supported us for 2 or 3 years just because they like hearing from the people that do, they like the vibe or whatever it might be. And it's a community that's grown, and the fact that we're now doing in-person meetups, like we're now planning our 3rd in-person meetup. Nia, it is in Brighton in May. Get over onto Discord, guys, if you're interested in that. And I know, before anyone says yes, USA, as soon as I get booked to speak at a conference in the States, Sudoku, Acquire, etc., I will make sure we do a community meetup stateside, because I know half of our community are stateside. Yeah, I love that. And Nia, you've hit that on the head. Good conversation on and off the screen, because like I say, it is ultimately, we're here to give you guys a chance to talk as well. You know, I can't have you all on screen at the same time. We can't all have microphones. That would be a nightmare. But you guys can chat amongst yourselves and support each other. And I think those that have come from Twitch know what happens on Twitch and knows how tight-knit that is, the fact that people are meeting up in person, etc. It's starting to happen on YouTube. So I want to say a big thank you, guys, to all of the regulars who come over here from Twitch, because it's thanks to you, and welcoming new viewers, and it is a different vibe. Obviously, we talk about a lot more serious stuff here, and we cover all sorts of topics, especially like the mental health ones can be quite challenging, a challenging listen, but they're an important listen. So for those of you guys that have come over and sort of like put that flavor of support and community and peer support into this channel, that's gradually growing. Like last week, we had more views than we've ever had from an edited video. And just to give people and understand how this works, we do the live stream. When I end the stream, the whole thing goes up, warts and all. Then in a few weeks' time, I'll edit it down just to the interview, so just me and Heather chatting. And then, I've accidentally hidden my window. There we go. And then a couple of months maybe after that, it turns into a podcast. And the whole point of that is that we try to reach people where they're comfortable consuming. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Some people watch nothing but YouTube videos, etc. So we're always sort of diluting our numbers, because we're trying to reach people where they are, and it's just going from strength to strength, especially when we're putting those edited videos up. So anyone who's been watching, especially over on our YouTube podcast, will know that we have been doing a series based on the Gibbons family that joined us. So Lauren in chat, Kevin and Matthew. We now released the 3rd part of that, which is Lauren's story. Please go check out lovely Lauren's video on our YouTube channel, and that'll be on podcast in the next day or 2 as well. Just trying to sort of show how autoimmune disease affects families and the impact it can have and how wide reaching it can be. I'm loving seeing all the chat, guys. Loving seeing all the chat. But yeah, if you've checked out ArchaeoPlays YouTube channel, you'll see the skill set, and then go check out Twitch channel. Lovely vibe there as well. Welcome in, William. Welcome out again, William's awesome. I love William. I hope you're good. It's great to see people still dropping in and out. Like normally we wrap these up really quickly, but like I always say, I'm happy to stick around for as long as you guys have taken something from it. But I feel like you've probably heard enough from me tonight. So I will be I did have some admin at the start of the show that I didn't say. So for those of you that are still sticking around, thank you. So Wednesday is our Twitch affiliate anniversary stream. Nia Cheeks will be making her 2nd appearance on Twitch after you lot just embarrassed me. I knew it was a bad idea bringing my wife stroke mama mod onto the stream, because I was going to forever be told, where's mama mod, the next time I streamed without her, and inevitably peer pressure is told. And this Wednesday is our 2-year Twitch affiliate anniversary, and Nia Cheeks will be returning due to popular demand. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the 60 odd gift subs that you lot chucked at the channel last time she appeared, but you kind of backed me into a corner, and it's gone completely to her head. She's talking about OnlyFans and also she isn't really. So yeah, check that out, because I must admit I did enjoy that. She didn't talk for the first 10 minutes, and then I went for a bathroom break, and I came back, and she's asking chat how their day's been and everything. She was off. She's gone. I've been completely usurped. So yeah, that's on Wednesday from 7 o'clock, and then on Thursday, like I say, myself and Heather will be co-streaming some Minecraft. 50 that's we'll be co-streaming some Minecraft. So some madness on Wednesday and maybe some more sensible streaming on Thursday. And then I swear I'm terrible. I really should have my diary open. And then next Sunday, the Chronic Pain Club returns to its usual slot. Please don't get this wrong, Joel. Hang on. My brain is dying on me, so I'm going to double check. The 4th of February, I am joined by Mark and Rachel from this is brain fog in action. I've done the hard bit, and your brain is like, you can relax now, Joel. And then all of a sudden, the fatigue hits and everything else. So I'm going to double check this. I have Mark and Rachel joining me from RACC, and those of you that were with me when I hosted World AI Arthritis Day for the American charity AI Arthritis, I did a 8 or 10 hour host and stint for those guys. There were 2 people that we interviewed, a UK charity that focuses on raising awareness of rare or inflammatory diseases, not to be confused with autoimmune diseases. And they'll be joining us next Sunday, where we will talk about all the good work that they do for that charity and that work. And then the Sunday after that on the Chronic Pain Club, we are joined by a chap called Dr. George Ackerman, and he campaigns in memory of his mother for an organisation, I think it's Together for Sharon is the organisation he created, movement he created, and she suffered from Parkinson's disease, and he passionately campaigns for that. It's going to be a real moving one. That one we'll definitely be signposting to support. So check out that one the following Sunday. I'm going to stop talking now. But the main thing is the new microphone worked, the mixer worked. Heather was amazing, which we knew. That was my backup plan. If my new kit didn't work, I was just going to sit and just let Heather talk, and she'd have smashed it. You can now see more of me, which hopefully stops Selby bullying me every time I clean my glasses and calling me an egg. Lovingly, I should point out. And yeah, all the upgrades worked, and we'll be back on Twitch on Wednesday night with Mama Mod. Dare I say it? I'll never hear the end of it. She'll be hosting this show soon. Until next time, guys, have a good one. Enjoy, look after yourselves, enjoy yourselves, and we will see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.